Hi, today I'm going to cover how to create a Pareto chart. Now, a Pareto chart is a good visual example of the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle. And this was named after an Italian economist back in the 19th century. His name was Wilfredo Pareto, and he had noticed that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people. And this concept can also apply to many things nowadays. You may hear that 20% of the people own or produce 80% of the wealth, or etc. And usually this principle kind of applies pretty much around the ballpark of 20 to 80, 30 to 70, 40 to 60. But it's very useful concept to kind of understand what items cause most of the effects. So basically 80% of the effects are coming from 20% of the cause of something. So we can use it in maybe like our daily life to see where most of our expenses are going to. So here is an example of a chart that indicates what our expenses are. Maybe these are daily expenses: rent, car payment, groceries, etc. And which items are basically the bulk of all our expenses. And we can see here as we go down the chart here from left to right with our most expensive or most costly expenses, we see that 80% of all our major costs are rent, car payment, and groceries. And so I'll show you how to create this graph in just a minute. Let's go to a new slide. Well, first let's kind of just copy some things here so it would make it a little bit more easy so we don't have to type everything up. I'll just put that over here, and maybe we will put some new amounts. Let's say I'll put an amount there, and let me double click this to kind of auto fit that. Let's say our rent was $1,500, our car payment is $500, our grocery was $300, our gas. Now let's say that our gas is really expensive nowadays. We bought a big SUV, and now it's $400. Our mobile phone payment is $100. Our cable is $60. One thing we need to do before we start any type of charting is to make sure that the amounts are sorted in descending order from the greatest amount to the least amount. So what we can do here is just click into any cell, right click, click sort, and sort from largest to smallest. And you'll see that Excel, this is Excel 2007, it's picking up the sorts and sorting them accordingly. What we also need to do here is enter in the amount, the total amount. So we can just click down in the bottom of the cell. I like to use keyboard shortcuts. We can just press the Alt key and the equal sign, and it's going to pick up and sum the cells right above it. So you see that we're summing B2 to B7, so for the total amount. So what I can do is just click enter, and there we go. That's going to give us our total amount there. What we need to do next is put in a cumulative amount row. So basically, as the cells go down, it's going to add up the amounts from cell to cell. So this cell, we're just going to make it equal to 1500 here. But for this cell, the second cell here, we're going to need to add this amount, the car payment, plus the preceding amount. So we'll just go ahead and click B plus C2. And I like to press Control Enter to leave my box selected here where I took it. Now what we can do here is now we can grab onto the fill handle here and just copy it down. And what it's going to do is it'll copy the formulas down because they're not absolute formulas. There's no dollar signs above it. So once it gets copied down from one cell to the next cell, it'll just pick up the corresponding cells. And we see here, once it gets down to the bottom, it's added up all the amounts here, and that should equal to the total there, because that is the total. The next thing that we want to do is we want to we want to get a percentage of this to the total. So we can just label this column cumulative percent. We'll just give that a shortcut and double click that to autofill. And what we need to do is have this amount divided by the total. So we'll just do equal this 1500 divided by that total. With the total, what we want to do is we want to lock down that cell, make it an absolute cell reference. So I'm going to go ahead and press F4 and make sure the dollar signs are in front of the B and the 8, the letter and the number. And when that gets copied down, that cell reference doesn't change, but this cell reference will. So I'll go ahead and press Control Enter and go ahead and actually just, I don't need to like click and hold this to spread it down. I can just double click this fill handle here, and now it's brought it all the way down. What I want to do is also make this into a percentage, so I can just go ahead and click this percentage side, or look, there's a shortcut key here, Control Shift %. I like shortcuts, so I'll make that Control Shift %, and there we go. So now we've got our basis for a chart. What I'm going to do is select my columns here, and I'll press the Alt F1 key. That automatically creates whatever default chart you have in your Excel application within this particular tab. So press Alt F1. We see we have a nice little chart here. So some of the things I can get rid of. I don't need this cumulative amount. So what I'm going to do is right click in the chart and go to select data. Once I select data, I'm just going to remove that cumulative amount. That's something I need for the chart. And once I've gotten that out of the way, click OK. But look, the cumulative percentage is nowhere to be seen because it's a percentage, and these are integers. So these numbers are probably very, very low. So how am I going to select that? Well, there's a couple ways, but there's an easy way here when we click into the Chart Tools Contextual tab. If we clicked on either the layout or format, we can go here in the current selection and select our cumulative percentage. That's our series. It's one of the series that we have. There's another way you can do it. When you click in the chart, you can use the arrow key, and as I press the up or down arrow, or maybe not a down arrow, we notice that in the current selection it selects the area. And so you can also notice that when that's being done, the area here, we can see the selection. So what we want to do for that when it's selected is we can just hover over it and right click, change chart series type. We want to change that to a line, and it's nice to have a line with markers so we see which parts are which percentage parts are a little bit more I guess visible. Click OK, and there we have our cumulative percentage. But we notice here, this cumulative percentage, it's all still down here. That's because what we need to do is put it on its own vertical axis. So this vertical axis is based on the integers. We need another vertical axis for the percentages. So I can go ahead and just right click again and go to Format Data Series and select Plot the series on a secondary axis. So it's going to put another axis here. See, now we've got our percentage axis. I really don't like these lines here, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete that. Just select it, right click, delete, or you can just press the delete key. I'll just press the delete key to get rid of that. Now we have this nice chart, and it's kind of telling us where about 80% of all our expenses, they're due to rent, car payment, and gas. It just gives you a nice visual cue. And now let's say that we want to kind of have an additional visual cue that just gives us a line where the 80% is. Well, what we can do is we can say, I can put a column here that says 80% marker, and just put 80% here and just copy that down. What I can do is I can select this column, Control C to copy, and here just select anywhere within the chart and Control V to paste, and we see it's put it in there. So it's kind of a nice feature that you can easily copy series of data into the chart without going to the chart. And I like to kind of change this, instead of having those markers there, make that just a straight line. And here we have our 80% marker. So we knew that now we know the cross section between where our expenses hit the 80% is right here. So here's how to create a Pareto chart. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.